this session. As we assume our regional forum on care work in ASEAN country, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Miguel Mosqui, Head of Poverty Elimination and Gender Division from ASEAN Secretary, who will deliver an essential briefing on the care economy. Please, Miguel, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I hope that everyone enjoyed their breakfast and had a pleasant flight coming here in the beautiful capital, Vientiane. My name is Miguel, and I'm the head of the Poverty, Education, and Gender Division of the ASEAN Secretariat. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Law Women's Union as the ECW chair and focal point to the ECW for inviting the Secretariat to join and give a presentation in today's forum. Also, I'm very happy to see familiar faces, friendly faces, and also new faces and friends, no? As we continue our work to promote the recognition, no, of unpaid care and domestic work in the region. While I was preparing for this presentation, I suddenly realized it's a huge undertaking to give a briefing on the care economy. It might have been uh, oversight on my part to agree. No, of not. I'm just kidding. But maybe one caveat I would need to make is that the presentation I will be giving in the next maybe 10-15 minutes is to focus on the current thinking of ASEAN on the care economy. And so thank you. Hello, no, that's different. Also, in relation to addressing unpaid care and domestic work. So that's the caveat I want to make as we go through this presentation. And I'll be focusing on initially 3 areas on ASEAN frameworks, secondly on care economy in general, and the third area will be on addressing unpaid care work. And the fourth area, which I think will be discussed tomorrow, will be on partnerships. But I already included it here, so it would be, tied in with the briefing. But maybe just a couple of points to carry forward the messages from the opening session. We heard that hopefully this forum will identify sustainable solutions. Because as we've heard, and I think all of us already know, no, this is really a persistent issue, a human rights issue, in fact, that continues to impede and serve as obstacles against women and girls. Because primarily they're the ones who shoulder this burden. And second, I think we shouldn't lose sight of we're still recovering from the pandemic, no? And there are a lot of learnings. Apart from data showing us the incidence of unpaid care and domestic work really spiked, increased during the pandemic, no? And then there are learnings there for all of us to pick up on, which leads me to another point, and I think this was raised by Chai Chai earlier, no? Policy needs to catch up. Policies, programs need to catch up. And that's why I'm really looking forward to listening and hearing from member states and also partners so that we can all pull together all this wealth of knowledge and see how we can bring this at the ASEAN level and see how regional cooperation can identify modalities, how regional cooperation can work in these areas, no, on these areas. And of course, how member states can work together, no? I think the last point was made by Madam Tama when she encouraged us really, to take a look at the policy recommendations, and I hope that all of us had an occasion to peruse the first draft that was circulated prior to the forum, so that the recommendations be the basis really of how we move forward this outcomes of the forum. So with that very lengthy opening, maybe I can go to the next slide. There. Okay. So I'll start with ASEAN frameworks. No? We always start with the ASEAN frameworks to establish a clear mandate. No? meaning that all 10 ASEAN member states have agreed to work and cooperate on this issue, because not all issues have consensus, no, and ASEAN works on consensus. Now, I'm highlighting these frameworks to emphasize first, as we take a look at the Declaration on the Gender Responsive Implementation of the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 and the SDGs. This was adopted by the ASEAN leaders back in 2017 and gives a clear mandate to mainstream gender perspectives across the three community pillars. And I think it was during the term of the Philippines as ASEAN chair and they were the ones who championed this declaration. And until now, 2023, the effects of this declaration is still reverberating, no? Because so much headway has been done in mainstreaming gender perspectives, no, across the three ASEAN community pillars. Oh, it's moving. Okay. Okay, that's a good cue to see that just to focus on two ASEAN frameworks that's quite related to our topic. No? And again, it gives us the mandate, no, on working together on the care economy and addressing unpaid care and domestic work. The first one is on the action agenda on mainstreaming women's economic empowerment, which focuses on mainstreaming gender perspectives in the ASEAN economic community. And it's clear, as adopted by the ASEAN leaders, that there's a clarion call to address the barriers that impede maximizing women's full economic potential, promote women's participation and skills development in STEM, also invest in programs which provide enabling environment for women MSMEs, and increase women's representation leadership in the workforce. It really lays down the building blocks, no, for ASEAN's collective work on promoting a care economy and on addressing unpaid care and domestic work. Now, most recently, during Cambodia's term as ASEAN chair, they championed the adoption of the Declaration on Unlocking Women Entrepreneurship in ASEAN. And in that declaration, which the ASEAN leaders again adopted, no, it's very clear there is a recognition of valuing women's unpaid care and domestic work, and also addressing the unequal distribution of unpaid care and domestic work. Now, particular to approaches to address the unequal distribution of paid care and domestic work, the declaration itself outlined these items, no, through gender responsive and care sensitive public services, infrastructure and social protection policies, promotion of shared responsibility and of work-life balance within the household and the family, and care entrepreneurship opportunities, no, among others. So this is, in a nutshell, are the relevant ASEAN frameworks, no, again, that provides the mandate for ASEAN to work together on these issues. And not only does it evince a clear mandate, it also already gives the policy guidance, no, of which areas and how to undertake all of these initiatives. In the next slide, let's now look at the care economy. No? Well, again, as a reflection while I was preparing this presentation, I think my struggle was this conflating care economy with addressing unpaid care and domestic work, and how to locate the issue of unpaid care and domestic work within the whole care economy discourse. No? Because I think in some conversations or discussions, the care economy, it's quite clear. You focus on policies, programs, workforce, care providers, that's it, no? Maternal care, child care, no? And all the related services, policy, infrastructure, etc. No? But in the ASEAN Comprehensive Framework on Care Economy, maybe this is how ambitious ASEAN is, no? There's really an expansion of the framework and looking at a whole of ASEAN approach, no, to see how the care economy can be promoted. We see if I hope some of us or most of us have taken the time to read the framework itself, no, and this was championed by Brunei Darussalam during their term as ASEAN Chair. It serves as a guide for ASEAN to develop the care economy in response to complex crises, no? By way of reflecting on the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, it calls for a multifaceted, multidimensional, multi-pronged approach. Again, a whole of ASEAN approach. No? And later on, we'll see. Currently, the coverage mainly encompasses the ASEAN Economic Community and the ASEAN Sociocultural Community. No? Significantly, this framework puts care at the center of public policy to generate new social and economic dynamics, solidarity. It also looks at clean air, new ways to combine work with family responsibilities. No? Also, the framework recognizes that the pandemic has not only unearthed gender imbalances, but also exacerbated, no, such gender fault lines. And I think this needs to be said over and over again, no, because it's part of the recognizing uh, pillar, no, or the principles. No, I think sometimes there's three, sometimes there are five, no? But the first one there is to recognize, no? And I think this is the main message that we have to repeat over and over again, no? So that it can translate into and be discussed, no, in decision-making conversations. So. And lastly, the framework charts out the strategic priorities, map out the relevant sectoral initiatives. Next slide, just to highlight the coverage there. And also not to preempt the presentation of our friends from Brunei Darussalam later. I want to focus on the framework looks at care work in a variety of settings, no? And across formal and informal economies. And significantly, the coverage is, it talks about direct care work and relational care work, which in turn covers paid and unpaid care work. But more than that, it covers other areas of care work, no? And I copied this verbatim from the framework, no? It talks about reskilling and upskilling employability in sectors that are crucial in the context of a care economy, embracing new technologies towards lifelong learning, hospitality in terms of the changing demographic, development of creative industry, encouraging social entrepreneurship, especially for the benefit of the vulnerable groups, as well as smart cities to smart homes, no, among others. So, when I revisited the framework while preparing for this presentation, it really dawned on me how forward-looking this framework is, no, in giving guidance to ASEAN sectoral bodies and ASEAN member states. Not only giving us a conceptual framework and covering a host of issues related to the care economy, as well as really targeting the issue of address the covering unpaid care and domestic work, but also linking it within various settings, no? And this is crucial, as you'll see later and tomorrow, no, when we have the conversation on engaging ASEAN sectoral bodies, ASEAN partners, no, etc., on specific thematic issues, because there are a lot of pathways, no, and we need to be, and this would be my recommendation for all of us, we need to be very strategic, no, in identifying areas of cooperation and partnership. Okay. In the next slide, this is just an item, is an enumeration of the 6 strategic areas or priorities that are covered by the framework. I won't go much into detail. Again, just to reiterate that it really encompasses, no, a wide range of thematic issues, but very clearly remaining faithful to the lens of promoting care economy and addressing unpaid care and domestic work. No? As I've said previously, if you take a look at the issues covered by the strategic priorities, most of them cover issues that are being addressed by sectoral bodies in the ASEAN economic community, for example, in micro, small, medium enterprises, financial inclusion, also mostly from the ASEAN sociocultural community. No? One item I'd like to highlight is that when you get the chance, please take a look at the annex, no, of the framework, because um, it enumerates the sectoral initiatives, no, that contribute, perhaps way of example, no, to the implementation of this framework. To me, it gives the impression, possibly, no, that once sectoral bodies in ASEAN implement these initiatives, then by default, possibly, it's a way of implementing or contributing to the implementation of the framework. But I suppose for purposes of this briefing and also for this forum, we can be more deliberate and targeted, no, in finding which areas where we can bring our expertise, all this wealth of knowledge, no. Again, going back to the point made earlier, so that policy can catch up. And if we take a look at the program that we have, the way it's designed, it already outlines the policy spaces that we are invited to look at. No? Maybe one other thing that, since I'm inviting everyone to maybe give an assignment, no, a reading assignment, there's this lovely report developed by the ASEAN Committee on Women in partnership with ESCAP. The title, it's very direct to the point, no? Addressing unpaid care work in ASEAN, no? And then it's really an investigation and unpacking of what ASEAN member states have been doing in, I think there are 3 or 4 policy areas, no? And there are several recommendations there which also resonate with the draft recommendations that all of us have copies of. Now, this is the fun part. And I think this is the second to the last slide. Looking at unpaid care and domestic work. So again, just to go back to my point earlier on this struggle, no, so to speak, how to locate unpaid care domestic work in this whole conversation of promoting care economy in ASEAN, in a way that has been resolved, no, by the specific provisions in the framework itself. But this initiative to address unpaid care and domestic work in ASEAN, it can be a standalone initiative, no? But the way ASEAN works is that there are sectoral bodies with specific mandates to pursue specific initiatives. What we see on the screen right now, I've included here indicative entry points to introduce and mainstream discussions or raise awareness on addressing unpaid care and domestic work. For example, on and the most relevant one is the implementation of the regional framework and action plan to implement the ASEAN Declaration on strengthening social protection. This has been like 10 years that's being implemented, and its implementation has been overtaken by the pandemic, and the senior officials meeting on social welfare and development are in the process of revisiting this regional action plan and also looking at, and there's an opportunity there, no, to really articulate how to address unpaid care and domestic work. Also, right now, the implementation of the regional plan of action to implement the Kuala Lumpur Declaration on aging, empowering older persons in ASEAN. It's very sector specific, but nevertheless presents an opportunity, you know, to look at provision of care for older persons and applying a gender lens. We see that in the region, and I think in the Asia Pacific region, no, aging wears a woman's face. And if we intersect that with, for example, incidents of poverty, again, this is more felt by women. And if we intersect that with geography, more women in rural areas experience poverty and are at a disadvantage in their old age. No? So again, going back to the issue of addressing unpaid and domestic work, this framework of the KL Declaration gives us that entry point as well as the sectoral body and approaches, no, how to insert and integrate that perspective. Now moving to persons with disabilities, ASEAN is currently implementing the Enabling Master Plan 2025, mainstreaming the rights of persons with disabilities. Again, there's an opportunity there to really be clear in articulating how care providers need to be capacitated, their work recognized, no, whether paid and most importantly unpaid, no. And since this largely falls within the family setting, no, so again, this master plan gives us the framework and again the mandate, no, to work together on this issue. Now, speaking of care providers, ASEAN is currently implementing the roadmap to implement the Hanoi Declaration on strengthening social work towards cohesive and responsive ASEAN community. And this focuses on the roles, strengthening the roles in particular of social workers and the wider social workforce. So there's an opportunity there to be very clear and deliberate in making that argument and case for building capacities and really recognizing, no, the work and effort of care providers. Now, the three last indicative entry points are the sectoral work plans. No? So the ASEAN Committee of Women, which is currently being chaired by Lao PDR, and the incoming chair is Malaysia. In their 5-year work plan, addressing unpaid care work is an item that has been identified as a priority. No? Similarly, in the work plans of ACWC, the ASEAN Commission on the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Women and Children, as well as, of course, as I've already mentioned, the Senior Officials Meeting on Social Welfare and Development. In the last slide, maybe just one more item here. Now, there is still room and scope to engage the ASEAN economic community on promoting care economy in general, and also engaging them in a conversation on how their work on integrating the markets of ASEAN economies, no? Integrating ASEAN economies, no? Would also lead to and not perpetuate the burden, no, of unpaid care and domestic work. It's a conversation that needs to happen, but before that happens, we need to unpack it first, no? Because in the AEC, they're very clear on what they need to deliver by 2025. Integrate the markets, facilitate trade, increase production. No? Other than that, we need to support them by having the language and tools to understand how their work needs to be linked and contribute to our work, no, on addressing unpaid care and domestic work. I think there has been an initiative on this. If I remember correctly, the roundtable that was organized earlier this year, also the work of the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network. They've been very diligent in engaging AEC, particularly the sector on micro, small, medium enterprises. No? As part of their advocacy is on this issue. No? Now, as a longer term, shall we say, strategy, included here is the ASEAN Community Post-2025 Vision. And this is where the leadership of Lao PDR as the incoming ASEAN chair next year and Malaysia in 2025 would be very critical because they would be in a position to retain and highlight the priority, no, or the focus rather, on this issue. Also, that would need to be translated into specific language to be reflected in the roadmap of ASEAN in the next 20 years, the post-2025 vision, and also within the blueprints, no, of the community pillars, particularly in AEC and the ASEAN sociocultural community. Now, after hearing myself give the presentation, I feel like we transition from giving information to strategizing what we need to do, no? I hope that's beneficial for us in framing our discussion, no? For the two-day forum. And maybe as a last point, I deliberately did not include any data or information or like the number of care workers, etc. No? Because I defer to all of your expertise on that. I'm not an expert on that. What I do bring in here is the ASEAN perspective. So maybe as we go through the forum, we can match all of the wealth of knowledge that we have so that when we go to the second day, we'll be in a better position to enrich the policy recommendations. So as a last point, I have there a pending box on partnership, but we'll open that tomorrow in the morning, no, when we discuss strategizing on partnership. So that ends the briefing, not on the broad care economy, but on the current ASEAN discourse on promoting care economy and also addressing unpaid care and domestic work. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Mr. Miguel, for your values insight, and it's very important and clearly information for us today. And now we move to the next session on the key address by the government of Brunei Darussalam on the progress of ASEAN comprehensive framework on the care economy. We extend our sincere thanks to the government of Brunei Darussalam for sharing their expertise and contributing to the advancement of the care work policy in our region. May I invite Excellency Dr. Siti Nokrawi Binti Haji Basofera, the Acting Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, as alternative SOCAP of Brunei Darussalam. Please, the floor is yours.
Sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Your Excellency, Tama Fit Visai, Vice President of the Lao Women's Union and Chair of ASEAN Committee of Women, ACW, Distinguished Mr. Tas Pon Butsaling, Country Director Oxfam in Laos, Ms. Chai, Chief Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Program of Social Development Division in ESCAP, colleagues from ASEAN member states and Timor-Leste, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of the government of His Majesty the Sultan and Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam, we would like to express our sincere and profound appreciation to the government of Lao PDR, particularly Lao Women's Union, for the hosting and organizing of regional forum on care work in ASEAN countries. We would also like to extend our deepest appreciation to Oxfam, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, ASEAN Secretariat, and others for the support in bringing together relevant stakeholders to this forum. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN recognizes the importance to leverage on strong partnerships and cooperation to protect different segments of our populations and sectors by pushing on policies and programs that will ensure a sustainable, caring society and economy. With that in mind, the ASEAN Comprehensive Framework on Care Economy was developed with the hope to also steer the mega trends towards a more positive and sustainable directions for the future. As such, the adoption of the ASEAN Comprehensive Framework on Care Economy by the ASEAN leaders at the 38th and 39th ASEAN Summits on October 26, 2021, provided the needed guidance where ASEAN and with the support of its partners can map out and implement initiatives specifically on caring for each other and preparing for the future while prospering together as the central action. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about the care economy, the common misconception is that it focuses on care work alone. However, under the ASEAN Comprehensive Framework on Care Economy, it is about having more responsive and informed social safety nets and those related, whilst reframing more comprehensive, enabling and supportive policy to strengthen the opportunities and potential of a caring ASEAN. By doing so, we pave the way for the compassionate and sustainable care economy of ASEAN and accompany our ongoing work towards the ASEAN post-2025 vision. Within the framework, there are 6 strategic priorities. I think it was also mentioned during Miguel's presentation. The first is promoting healthy aging and leveraging opportunities in aging societies in Southeast Asia. This intends to address the mega trends of the aging population. This will lead to the rise in the demand of care work, while leads to many implications, including increased welfare expenditure and the sustainability of social security, as well as possible shortage of care workers. At the same time, there are also opportunities and potential policies on healthy and successful aging that can directly or indirectly provide significant economic and societal benefits and can correlate, for example, with the United Nations Initiative, Decade of Healthy Aging 2021 to 2030. We would like to share that Brunei Darussalam is currently drafting a new plan of actions for the elderly with a revised focus on successful aging, aligning with the Ministry of Health focus, as well as under the guidance of the UN Decade on Aging and the WHO Regional Action Plan on Healthy Aging in the Pacific West 2021 to 2025. This is in part of the continuation of strategic initiatives to empower and ensure the welfare of the elderly, to allow them to be independent, productive, and healthy members of society so they can contribute towards national development. The existing senior citizen activity centers in all the 4 districts in Brunei Darussalam continues to encourage the elderly to be more active in social and development programs, including entrepreneurship, skills training, and healthcare activities. The second strategic priority is enhancing the role of the care economy in building a disaster-resilient ASEAN. Here, this is about care work responding to disaster management and preparedness. The role of care economy is reinforced in terms of training and developing plans with the involvement of the peoples, particularly community members and youth leaders. The third strategy priority is on accelerating technology innovations and digital transformations of the care economy in ASEAN. Technologies are powerful tools that bridge gaps in care delivery, enabling us to provide accessibility of quality care even to remote communities. The potentials of economic development through digitalization is vast and can provide solutions to various sectors, including education, health, disaster response, and social development. Thus, utilizing digital platforms and collaborative technologies will also help economy recovery. A good example of this is creative economy, which will open up new social and economic opportunities, especially to entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized enterprises across ASEAN. The fourth strategic priority is building stronger and resilient families as the foundation of the care economy. This is in recognition of the increasing challenges faced by workers in balancing work and family responsibilities. There is a need to strengthen ASEAN in promoting a positive workplace culture across all sectors. To achieve this, we should advocate for and implement more family-friendly initiatives like flexible working arrangement, supportive employee systems, accessible childcare facilities, and maternity protection. In this regard, sharing best practices from both within and outside the region will contribute in enforcing family and resilient and support within ASEAN, which I believe that we will be discussing in this forum. Simultaneously, with the increasing demand of caregivers, the traditional role of women versus the role of men in caring should be looked into with practical and effective policies. To support families in Brunei Darussalam, we have made the amendment of the old age pension and disability allowances in 2020 as provision care providers allowance. An amount of Brunei $250 per month is provided. The fifth strategic priority in enhancing social protection so as leaving no one behind. This is a commitment we must uphold. As mentioned earlier about the role that women play, care work, both paid and unpaid, is predominantly performed by women. If systematic and structural issues are not addressed properly, current deficits in care work and its equality will create a severe and unsustainable global care crisis and could further increase gender inequalities in the world of work. In Brunei Darussalam, the criteria in assessing the eligibility for the disability allowances has also been revised by eliminating the condition of being unable to work, thus empowering PWDs with the right to be employed regardless of whether they receive disability allowances. Currently in Brunei Darussalam also, the National Plan on Women is being drafted and carrying on the outcome of the research on women's development in Brunei Darussalam, which is currently undertaken. The research aims to identify key issues that may affect and hinder women's development, particularly in the economic livelihood and work-life balance, which is critical towards ensuring a strong family institution. The expected outcomes of the research will be to identify current and prevalent challenges as well as opportunities for women and to further their development and to support the formulation of policies or programs towards greater equity. Capacity building, including empowerment, skills and training courses, and entrepreneurships guidance are also offered to women and single mothers. The last strategic priority is resilience and care for the environment. There is an integral link between caring for our communities and safeguarding our planets. In this regard, embracing sustainable practices is vital to establishing resilient care economy. Prioritizing sustainability in our policies, procedures, and actions can boost investments in green recovery and conservation efforts across Southeast Asia and promote green jobs. In this regard, we can forge a path towards a harmonious and sustainable future, thus ensuring a thriving care economy that flourishes in harmony with our environment. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I would like to once again extend my sincere appreciation to the organizers and sponsors for their unwavering support and participation in organizing this event. The meetup of experts and those from the field, such as the forum today, will continue to provide us with an important platform to share best practices, insight, and experiences on the vital aspects of the care economy. We are pleased to see continued active steps in promoting and discussing the care economy in ASEAN. The many conversations on this indicate very much the interconnectedness and linkage of social and economic agendas, including the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. With the growing awareness, we hope will improve policy frameworks and foster collaboration among ASEAN member states and partners. This will further build a stronger foundation for the care economy and ensure that no one is left behind in our journey towards progress and prosperity. We look forward for this to be taken forward further during the Lao PDR's ASEAN chairmanship in 2024. So let us work together in our effort to care, prepare, and prosper. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So we would like to thanks for this very information sharing to the Brunei from Brunei Darussalam. We hope this can guide all of us a way forward on care work. So now, before we have a tea break, I please to request all delegates to a photo session. The photo session we will conduct in 2 rounds. The first round, we would like to invite chair, co-chair, ASEAN SEC, ASEAN member state to take a photo. And the second round, we would like to invite all delegates or guests to have a group photo together. And for the participant online, could you please turn on the camera and please the first round first. Okay. So we will set the state. Sorry, we are now they are set the state about few minutes. Please, the participant from online, wait a moment. Now we are set the state, and then we'll call you for open the camera later. Thank you. So for the first round, we invite the chair and co-chair and ASEAN Sec and one representative from the member state, ASEAN member state. Please. Yes. Yes, Thailand. It's okay. So, and the second round, we invite all delegates to, and you can see and we invite for all delegates to join the photo session. Yes, please, on the stage. Maybe we can stand or. I think that you can sit and stand in the. Yes, we can sit and then some stand in the back. Yes. Yes. Behind the. Yes, move the chair a bit. So for the online participant, could you please open your camera, please? Online participant, please smile. So now it's time for well deserved to three break. We will be back in 20 minutes now. 20 minutes, three breaks. Please enjoy.